Successive Arctic invasions are targeting North America in what survival experts are quietly calling the most dangerous winter pattern in recorded history. This goes far beyond any normal winter challenge. I'm tracking relentless waves of bone-crushing cold that will convert the majority of Eastern America into a survival zone for the next month. At the 6-minute mark, I'll reveal the classified timeline that emergency preppers are using to position themselves for survival. By minute 10, you'll learn the 3 death zones where this Arctic assault creates conditions that separate the prepared from the casualties. And at minute 17, I'll share the underground survival protocols that government insiders use to protect their families. This intelligence could be the difference between your family thriving or becoming another statistic. Here's the number that's causing panic in emergency management circles. Half-inch ice accumulation is targeted across lower Michigan. And here's why that's a civilization-ending scenario. You might think half an inch sounds survivable, but I need to share what disaster preparedness experts know about ice storm annihilation. Even 1/8 inch of ice creates vehicular death traps, while half an inch completely destroys power grids and crushes mature timber. 3/4 inch ice loading demolishes transmission towers, and full inch accumulation can collapse entire communication networks. We're looking at potentially 1 million households losing power during peak winter, while the most brutal Arctic air in decades pushes south. Here's what makes this a true survival scenario. Complete infrastructure collapse during an ice storm means total systems failure. Zero heat sources, zero lighting, zero food preparation, zero communication, zero access to emergency information. Stay focused, because what's building right now isn't just another weather event. This is a complete atmospheric warfare scenario. A total shift in how our atmosphere operates that will dominate survival conditions across most of America for the next 4 to 5 weeks. The National Weather Service has activated winter storm protocols across Pennsylvania, but that's just the opening move in what's coming. In the coming hours, those protocols will cascade across New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, and throughout the entire Northeast survival zone. This is live, this is active, this is not a test, and 95% of the population has no idea they're about to enter a survival situation. Let me paint the survival scenario that's developing based on advanced modeling from NOAA and European crisis forecasting systems. Right now, as I brief you, an unprecedented storm weapon is obliterating the West Coast with historic destructive force. We're witnessing multi-foot snow dumps in the Sierra Nevada, with some zones experiencing snowfall rates of 5 to 6 inches per hour. California is under siege from rainfall rates hitting 3 inches per hour in targeted areas, transforming urban zones into flood battlegrounds. Wind forces are demolishing trees and power infrastructure, and this is just the warm-up for the main survival challenge. But that's merely the opening engagement. The primary survival test launched today, December 26th, and it's going to be ruthless. A massive winter warfare system is mobilizing across the Great Lakes, and by tonight it will be engaging millions of Americans in survival mode. From the Great Lakes to the Atlantic, this system will deploy a deadly trinity of crushing snow, devastating ice, and lethal cold. Now let me break down the survival science behind why this storm represents such an extreme threat, because understanding the enemy improves your tactical response. 3 hostile air mass armies are converging: warm moisture forces from the Gulf, Arctic assault troops from Canada, and Pacific reinforcements from the West. When these atmospheric armies clash over the Great Lakes battlefield, it creates what survival meteorologists call a perfect kill scenario. The warm air forces advance over the surface cold air troops, creating distinct temperature warfare layers throughout the atmospheric battlefield. Snow weapons form in the upper atmosphere, but when penetrating the warm air layer, they convert to liquid ammunition. These liquid rounds then hit the surface cold air and instantly weaponize into ice when striking any target. This is ice storm warfare tactics, and it's precisely what's deploying across Pennsylvania, Michigan, and northern Ohio combat zones. Here's the tactical timeline I promised, the exact battle progression as this winter war unfolds across the nation. Today, December 26th, The winter weapon system consolidates across the upper Midwest with heavy snow artillery launching across Minnesota and Wisconsin. This afternoon, the assault advances to the Great Lakes, with Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Kalamazoo taking initial ice bombardment. Tonight, the storm weapon intensifies dramatically while advancing eastward, with Cleveland and Toledo entering the ice warfare zone. Tomorrow, December 27th, the system unleashes full assault across Pennsylvania, with massive ice bombardment from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. Friday afternoon, New York City takes a devastating hit with 12 to 18 inches of crushing snow, while Pennsylvania ice assault continues. Friday night, the weapon reaches New England, with Boston, Hartford, and Portland facing complete whiteout warfare conditions. Saturday, December 28th, the storm moves offshore, but the deadliest phase begins as Arctic shock troops flood southward. Saturday night through Sunday, temperature warfare drops 40 to 50 degrees in 12 hours across the entire eastern combat zone. Every wet surface from the precipitation warfare instantly becomes black ice. Invisible killing fields on every route. Sunday through Tuesday, December 29th through 31st, the first Arctic shock troops arrive with the most brutal cold warfare in 20 years. Combat temperatures will reach 20 to 30 below zero across the Midwest and sub-zero across the Northeast theater. Wind chill warfare will drop to 40, 50, even 65 below zero in exposed positions, enough to cause frostbite casualties in under 8 minutes. January 1st, New Year's Day. Secondary Arctic shock troops deploy, even more brutal than the first wave, establishing occupation that could last weeks. Now I'll identify the 3 kill zones where this Arctic warfare creates the most lethal survival scenarios. Kill Zone Alpha, Lower Michigan, specifically the Detroit Grand Rapids corridor, including Lansing and Kalamazoo target areas. This zone faces ice bombardment of 0.5 to 0.8 inches, representing apocalyptic levels for power grid survival. Power grid collapse is guaranteed, potentially affecting 1.2 million to 1.5 million civilians during the coldest survival test of winter. When temperatures fall to survival-threatening levels post-storm, unheated shelters become death traps within 90 minutes. Kill Zone Bravo, the Interstate 95 corridor from Philadelphia through New York City to Boston combat zone. This corridor faces combined snow warfare and coastal storm surge as astronomical tides align with the storm assault. Storm surge and hurricane-force winds will create devastating coastal flooding as blizzard warfare develops inland. All transportation lifelines will be severed. Air transport, rail systems, ground transport, and highway arteries become impassable. Kill Zone Charlie, the Tennessee Valley, including Nashville, Huntsville, Chattanooga, and sections of northern Alabama and Georgia. This region rarely faces ice warfare, meaning infrastructure lacks hardening for the incoming assault conditions. Power systems in these zones cannot withstand ice loading, and vegetation inexperienced with winter warfare will fail catastrophically. Emergency response teams in these regions have minimal ice warfare training, complicating rescue and evacuation operations severely. Let me explain the atmospheric warfare pattern driving all these attacks, because knowing your enemy improves your survival strategy. The polar vortex, the circular fortress of extreme cold normally guarding the Arctic, is experiencing total breakdown. During breakdown events, chunks of Arctic warfare air break free and assault southward into the continental United States like frozen missiles. This isn't a brief cold raid. We're talking sustained atmospheric warfare that will control survival conditions through mid-January. The Great Lakes maintain relatively warm water from the unusually mild autumn and early winter, which actually amplifies the coming survival crisis. When extreme Arctic warfare air contacts these warm water sources, it generates massive snow weapon systems capable of depositing feet within hours. Buffalo, Syracuse, Erie, and all lake effect survival zones face potentially record-breaking snowfall weapons exceeding all historical data. Meanwhile, the jet stream, The high-altitude atmospheric highway controlling weather patterns is diving abnormally far south. This allows Arctic warfare air to penetrate much deeper into southern territories than normal, creating ice combat conditions in Tennessee. The combination of all these warfare elements creates what survival scientists term a generational survival event. Extremely rare and extremely dangerous. I know some people might think this sounds like survivalist paranoia, so let me give you the hard intelligence. The European Center, considered the world's most accurate survival forecasting system, shows this warfare pattern continuing for 4 to 5 weeks. The American forecasting systems show complete agreement, projecting multiple Arctic assaults and probability for several additional winter weapons. Temperature warfare anomalies will reach 30 to 50 degrees below survival baselines across most of the eastern continental theater. These aren't short, cold raids. We're discussing sustained periods where normal civilization becomes impossible without advanced preparation. Let me explain what temperatures of 30 below zero with 60 miles per hour winds actually mean for human survival odds. At wind chill temperatures of -50, exposed skin tissue freezes within 6 minutes, faster than most people can execute evasive maneuvers. Vehicle systems fail, tire pressure collapses dramatically, and diesel fuel solidifies, preventing flow. Water pipes freeze inside heated structures if positioned near exterior walls, and heating systems begin failing under survival demand. Natural gas demand spikes so severely that utility companies must implement rotating blackouts to prevent total grid collapse. This is when real survival situations develop. Not inconvenience, but actual life or death survival scenarios. Now let me ask you a survival question that could determine your family's fate during the coming weeks. If power grid collapse hit your location right now and lasted 4 weeks during Arctic warfare conditions, would your family survive? Do you have sufficient food requiring zero preparation? Adequate water for drinking and hygiene? Heating methods independent of the grid? Communication capability when cellular networks go dark? Information access when internet systems fail? Survival statistics show that 80% of American families lack basic survival provisions for even 72 hours. 4 out of 5 families remain completely exposed to extended grid failures, especially during the approaching survival crisis. Don't join that 80%, not during this survival event, because rescue operations may be impossible when you need them. Let me share the reality about government rescue capacity that most civilians don't understand. FEMA estimates indicate they can provide survival assistance to roughly 2.5% of affected populations for approximately 72 hours at peak capacity. When millions need rescue simultaneously across multiple survival zones, the system becomes completely overwhelmed. Local rescue teams perform heroically, but cannot reach everyone when transportation becomes impossible and resources face extreme limitations. Emergency shelters have maximum capacity limits and may be unable to accommodate everyone requiring survival assistance. This is why personal survival preparation isn't just smart, it's absolutely essential for your family's survival. Proverbs 21:5 teaches us, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty." This represents divine survival wisdom for our current situation. God gave us intelligence to recognize threats and respond strategically. Right now, you're receiving clear threat intelligence, and the choice that will determine your family's survival is straightforward. How will you respond? Here's your complete survival protocol. Memorize this information because your survival may depend entirely on it. Survival Priority Alpha. Food and water stockpiling for minimum 4 weeks. Not convenience foods, but serious nutrition requiring zero grid dependence. Canned proteins, dehydrated meals, energy foods, survival bars, and 2 gallons of water per person daily minimum. Fill every possible water container before the attack begins. Bathtubs, large vessels, clean storage. Because water systems collapse during grid warfare. Survival Priority Bravo. Independent heating systems with zero grid dependence. This is where most survival plans fail catastrophically. Even gas heating systems depend on electrical power for circulation and control systems. You need wood-burning stoves, kerosene heating systems, propane units, or generators. Something capable of maintaining survival temperatures in at least one room. When using combustion heating indoors, proper ventilation and carbon monoxide detection are critical survival requirements. Survival Priority Charlie: Communication and Intel Systems during Infrastructure Warfare. Battery-powered or hand-crank radio systems for emergency intel, multiple light sources, tactical lighting, and extensive battery stockpiles. Portable power systems for communication devices. Those cellular towers fail during ice warfare, so don't rely exclusively on mobile devices. Consider NOAA weather radio systems that receive emergency transmissions even when commercial stations go dark. Survival Priority Delta: Medical and pharmaceutical stockpiling. This area represents critical vulnerability for most survival plans. If any family members depend on prescription medications, stockpile minimum 60-day supplies immediately before the survival scenario begins. Advanced first aid supplies, thermometer, pain management, chronic condition medications, and basic medical equipment. When rescue services face overwhelming demand and routes become impassable, you become your family's primary medical officer. Survival Priority Echo: Cash reserves. During grid collapse, electronic payment systems and banking machines cease functioning. Maintain $1,000 to $2,000 in small bills secured in your survival location. Cash becomes the only functional currency during grid warfare. Survival Priority Foxtrot: Vehicle survival systems, since many people will be mobile when this survival scenario begins. Every vehicle should contain survival blankets, sleeping systems, food, water, lighting, charging devices, jumper cables, and tactical shovel. Maintain fuel above 75% continuously because fuel stations lose power and gasoline prevents engine block freezing. Traction materials, ice removal equipment, snow brushes, and basic repair tools for survival situations. Survival Priority Golf: Facility hardening and maintenance, preventing catastrophic structural failures. Know your main water supply shutoff location and operation procedures, because burst pipes can flood your survival shelter rapidly. Insulate plumbing in unheated zones. Seal air infiltration around doors and windows, and verify your shelter can support heavy snow loading. Have tactical tarps and plastic sheeting available for shelter damage from ice assault or excessive snow accumulation. Now let me address something equally critical as individual survival: community survival networks and mutual assistance protocols. This element elevates your survival probability from marginal to excellent and represents the finest aspects of human character during crisis. Network with your neighbors immediately before the survival scenario begins. Determine who has what survival capabilities and resources. Who has medical training, generator access, wood heating or fireplace systems, ham radio or emergency communication capability? Who has elderly or disabled family members needing additional survival assistance? Who has young children requiring shelter if heating fails? Establish neighborhood communication protocols. How will you coordinate when communication systems fail? Develop resource sharing protocols. If one shelter has power while another doesn't, how can you support each other? When civilization's normal support networks collapse, strong survival communities become the only guarantee that everyone makes it through. Acts 4:32 describes the survival community. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed any possessions were their own. But they shared everything they had, and there was no needy person among them. During survival scenarios, this is how we not only survive, but thrive, collectively, sharing resources, caring for one another. Let me clarify something important. I'm not trying to create survival paranoia. I'm trying to inspire intelligent preparation. Isaiah 54:17 states, "No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you." Panic creates poor survival decisions, but wisdom prepares and takes tactical action based on accurate intelligence. You have tactical control over your survival situation through preparation. You demonstrate love for your family by ensuring their survival. You exercise tactical judgment by making calculated decisions based on reliable intelligence and survival science. Let me also provide hope alongside this survival briefing, because winter warfare, even extreme scenarios, are temporary engagements. Communities that prepare tactically and cooperate strategically not only survive these challenges, but often emerge stronger than before. There's something powerful about how survival scenarios reveal the best in human character. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers assisting strangers. These acts of tactical cooperation reflect Christ's character and create survival bonds that endure long after the snow clears. So yes, prepare tactically for yourself and your family, but also seek opportunities to assist others strategically. Maybe sharing your generator with a neighbor who needs medical equipment, or inviting someone without heating to your survival shelter. Maybe using your tactical vehicle to assist rescue operations and reaching people who need help. These opportunities to serve others during survival scenarios are gifts, allowing us to demonstrate tactical love. Here's the final tactical timeline, because this intelligence remains absolutely critical for your survival planning. Today, December 26th, major winter warfare begins across the Great Lakes with severe ice bombardment across Michigan and northern Ohio. Tomorrow, December 27th, storm warfare devastates Pennsylvania and New York with catastrophic ice assault and heavy snow warfare. Saturday, December 28th, system advances to New England while dangerous Arctic shock troops flood the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic. December 29th to 31st, initial Arctic shock troops arrive with record-breaking cold warfare and dangerous survival conditions across the Eastern Theater. January 1st to 7th, secondary Arctic shock troops deploy even more brutal cold with potential for additional winter weapons. This is what's targeting us, this is what's advancing, and this is your final opportunity to complete survival preparations. In the next 30 hours, finalize your survival protocols, acquire your stockpiles, test your heating systems, secure your medications, network with your survival community, modify your movement plans, and ensure vulnerable family members and neighbors have necessary resources. After tomorrow morning, movement will become increasingly hazardous, and by Friday, it may be impossible throughout many survival zones. Remember Psalm 91, verse 1. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This is winter survival season. Nature's time to test our preparation, our character, and our commitment to mutual survival. But remember also that God advances with us through every survival scenario. He provides wisdom for preparation and strength for endurance. He provides survival communities for mutual support and the promise that every winter warfare eventually yields to spring renewal. The warfare is advancing, the cold is deploying, and the survival tests are coming that will challenge everything we understand about endurance. But spring will advance too. The cold will eventually retreat, the snow will melt, and life will renew itself as it always does. For now, winter warfare is here with all its tactical power. Respect that power. Prepare comprehensively for its challenges. Trust that with tactical preparation and strong survival networks, you have everything needed to not merely survive, but to thrive. Stay tactically alert out there. Monitor the intelligence carefully. Make strategic decisions. Assist your neighbors generously. And know with absolute certainty that this survival test will pass, but how thoroughly you prepare now determines how your family experiences it. May God protect and strengthen you through this survival scenario. Be tactical in your preparations. Be strategic in your interactions. Be faithful in your trust. Be generous in your assistance. And stay connected as this historic survival pattern unfolds. Because weather warfare never stops, survival communities never stop caring, and together, we're stronger than any assault nature can deploy. Stay prepared, stay networked, stay tactical, and remember that we're united in this survival challenge. This is your tactical call to action. The question that will determine your family's survival outcome is clear. Will you execute?